Hey, Ken, thank you so much for being on the show. It's great to have you here.
Adam, thanks so much. I'm pleased to be here.
Yeah, one operations guy to another. We can just nerd out on hotel operations for as long as we need to. So apologies to the audience in advance. But
Yes,
I think we
we'll
got
bore him.
we got some good stuff. I think we're going to talk about today. Hopefully, some things that are going to help everybody as we reopen here. But before leading the witness too much, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, I work for a company called Avocet Hospitality Group. I'm the senior VP of Operations. That means chief cook and bottle washer, I think, to most. And the group that I'm with is three hotels currently. And we have two hotels in Charleston, South Carolina, and one in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So diverse, historic hotel. Two of them are historic hotels, with buildings. Vendu is 1782, and Chattanooga is from 1926. So we're getting close to our 150 years of being open, because the Wheelhouse in Chattanooga has been continually open since 1872. So it's been operated through pandemics and all the different things that we kind of are familiar with here lately.
Yeah, pandemics before, and this one too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Did you guys stay open there?
We did. We stayed open the whole time. We didn't want to. We didn't want to ruin the legacy. So it was probably about seven of us, and I took the housekeeping duties. So I was never happier to see our group come back.
Yeah, no kidding. And how have things evolved over the last couple of months here? I mean, we're hearing all of this. There's a lot of talk in the media about revenge travel and leisure travel's up. I think we all kind of know that, especially if you follow the STAR data. You sort of see that Thursday, Friday, Saturday pattern now. What are you guys seeing out there?
Well, it's very positive, and with the revenge travel, I think COVID created a sense of urgency, and to reconnect, to find your family, to travel, to just see the sights. And for us, we do have one beach property. So last year, in and around May, as things started to just toned down a little bit, that property did fairly well. In 2020, the other two properties were, struggled to make their way. Our downtown Charleston property was affected not only from COVID, but from the other political things going on in the country at that point in time. So that leaned heavy on downtown Charleston.
Yeah.
So right now, what we're seeing is people wanting to get back out, and it helps us. Of course, the beach property is doing gangbusters, but are also in Chattanooga. We're very regional. We're a great drive market, so we're pulling from Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, other parts of Tennessee, and also North Carolina. So it's been strong, and it was almost like a curtain drew back in the first part of March when our local spring breaks started happening, and that's when we saw the pattern shift, and it just has stayed constant to the point now where it is record setting.
Wow. Okay. In a very short amount of time.
In a very short,
like hockey stick, literal hockey stick.
Exactly. And it's so different that we find ourselves forecasting much more frequently. I can tell you that we actually are forecasting monthly now out to the end of the year, just to try to stay on top of where we're at. But the good news is we just realized our best month in May was a great month, and then June just finished up our best month since, actually better, because we're not a fully stabilized hotel in Chattanooga, but we've done our best month that we have since we reopened in 2018. So we're driving, not only occupancy, but rate, and of course, RevPAR is following. And then in the Charleston area in general, which of course is a great tourist town, I would say most of the hotels, irregardless if you're at the beach or in the city, are record occupancy and record rate right now.
Wow. So it's not a phenomenon just related to your property. It's the whole area is doing well.
Exactly.
I can imagine that quick ramp up, in some respects was foreseen. I mean, we knew it was going to happen. You just don't really know when it's going to happen. You're just sort of waiting for that catalyst. How do you deal with this? How did you? And I'll get to the point here. I know that the staffing issue in hotels is a big issue right now. Trying to figure out how to get people in the door. From an operations perspective, and we can dive into your recruiting strategy if you'd like to talk about it. I'm really more interested in figuring out, like, how did you guys ramp up the operation to go from really low occupancy to pretty high occupancy overnight, while I'm assuming that rates went up, guest expectations were probably continue to be pretty sky high, but if you don't have the staff to be able to deliver on the typical level of service that you normally would, sometimes that gap is kind of where someone like you and me would spend a lot of time trying to minimize. Can you give us some color on that?
Well, definitely the labor situation nationwide has been talked about, probably ad nauseum. Everyone is feeling it. So management is, as you do in hospitality, you have to be able to do a lot of different things and multitask and wear a lot of different hats. And that is true. And for us, we've been very fortunate that we didn't have to restrict any of our rooms and lower our inventory. We were able to go at it. Now, oppositely in the food and beverage side, because we have food and beverage outlets with each of our hotels, that has been impacted very erratically, actually, whether it was COVID outbreaks with contact tracing that would affect our ability to operate, or if it is just, there are a lot of people that are going out there and offering $1 more, and sometimes that happens. And I don't want to make that sound like we have a lot of folks jumping, because we've got a great staff and a lot of true people that really stuck with us. And I think we tried to be true to them, even when we had to furlough them. There was, with health benefits and different things that we could do to keep them in our family. And that's really what it is trying to keep everybody in the family and communicate with them when we didn't have them there, and make sure that, we were still thinking about them. We knew we would get to a point where we could get them back in the building and in the house and utilize their talents. And that's kind of what happened, but it still is a little bit of a struggle to do it. I can tell you, just this week, we had to decide to curtail breakfast at one of our hotels, just because a lot of this is on the culinary side. And being an old F&B guy, we all know how you got to have the cooks in place to put the food out and keep everybody happy.
Yeah, good point. I mean, I love the way that you talk about some of the strategies that you took to keep people in the family when times were tough. And I guess that's a good example of that. A recruiting strategy starts with a retention strategy. And if you could keep enough people in the building and wanting to be there, hopefully you have fewer people that you're going to have to try to recruit when things start to turn around.
Right. And we've had good success with that. It hasn't been 100%, but we feel pretty fortunate of where we're at, and do have tried to keep the culture, even when they were not with us, that it is a family, and there's culture, there's passion, and we're all there to try to tell the story. And that's one of the things about Avocet is we want to drive things with our passion. That sets the culture, and we're going to tell a story at each one of our properties, and we involve the staff tremendously in that, whether it's through uniform or personality. And I've always been one of those people that I would rather let their personality shine through, because you can't do it with robots, and we've seen that there's some people trying and it's not super successful. So
it's not going so well. Yeah.
But it's been really positive to have people back in, and I think they were excited to get back, and we'll see how things as nationwide as things start to roll back, which they are. Hopefully we'll get a few more people in the labor pool, and the pool will get deeper, and things will be a little bit easier.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Let's hope for that. I'm curious to get your sense on. You mentioned that you're forecasting monthly now going forward. I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you've sort of got a Pecan Valley situation going on right now, where you may have a fill up at one part of the week, and then an emptying at another part of the week, and then maybe you kind of run a lower occupancy for a few days, and then you ramp up again, and then you ramp down again. What's the story there?
We have experienced that. Excuse me, and I'm sorry. It has started to actually mellow out a little bit, and what we're starting to see is that's how on the comeback we saw that where the weekdays, especially when school was still in session and parents really were still torn. Was it virtual? Was it in person? All those, the dynamics of all that. But now, as we're coming into the summer, we're seeing steady occupancies. And what has been interesting, as we talked initially, I did a little homework, and now the stay pattern is actually grown longer. So people are making their reservations days out. We're here in Charleston, we're on a 50-day pattern where we used to be on a 30-day pattern.
Wow.
For reservations. And, our beach property started in the last 3 months, has eclipsed what we've done in 2019. And we don't even look at our 21 budget, because that was basically throwing a dart at a wall, because you didn't know what was going to happen. So we really reconcile ourselves with what we did in 2019 and the budget that we wrote in 19 for 20. And fortunately for us, we're actually eclipsing both of those budgets right now.
That's unbelievable. What do you think's driving that?
I want to say that I just think people want control. They want it, and they don't take anything for granted. They want to travel. You don't know, we've got a Delta variant that nobody really wants to worry about, but why not go? And, I know I have somebody in my family that for a year and a half had been planning to go to Greece, and she's going to go to Greece in September, and said, I'm going one way or the other. So, and that's when you try to forecast, look at all the things that we don't have. We don't have international travel really geared up. So not only, people could say, well, we're going to lose to international, but think about the folks that haven't come here to the States that are in Europe or other areas that can't get here right now.
Right. So these records are being set with effectively regional travel.
Exactly. Whether it's the staycation, whether it's I'm hitting the road, I'm going to tour, it's hard to say, but we know that we can look at all our indicators that we are getting the usual travel patterns from the states that come to South Carolina and or Tennessee, that are neighboring states, or even Midwestern states that they want to get away from home because they've been at home. And
Yeah.
I think that's what's really been driving it.
Yeah. And it's, full hotels are one thing. I mean, you can revenue manage your way to a full hotel if the demand is there. But to set records, that's like seeing very little price resistance. That's just like putting rates out there and people keep booking, so you keep raising your rates.
It is, and we're cognizant that we don't have every service that we used to have in there. The pandemic and COVID has realigned hotel thinking in general. Whether it's do you do stayovers, or if you go to an Airbnb, you don't get your sheets changed every day, right?
Right.
So we can talk all day long about whether the free breakfast is going to ever make a comeback or not, and all the different things. So we curtailed a lot of things just based on our cleaning and controls back then and during the pandemic, and have brought some of those back, but because of staffing, we haven't been able to bring everything back. We tried to do turn down in one of our hotels, and it just got to be a big weight on the staff because they were having to work, the doubles, and when you're asking them to do all that, you've got to give them a break at some point.
Oh yeah.
So we're back to stayover service in 2 out of the 3 hotels. One is just really strapped for just the housekeeping side of it. So we do whatever we can. We offer to do things, and we'll come in and do stay over if it's requested and things like that. So it's just changed the dynamic of the services you offer, but people seem to be pretty understanding and almost a little forgiving for some of the services that aren't there, as long as you're giving them the experience and the vacation that they were looking for, and that they can enjoy themselves.
Yeah, that actually, you led into my next question perfectly. Good segue.
Thanks.
Is there any, almost like it was planned. Are guests forgiving about having reduced services when they're paying top dollar? And I guess, you answered that. It makes my mind go to whether or not, maybe not Avocet in particular, but like as a thought exercise, if people are okay with not having these services, do you ever really bring them back?
I think that that's going to be the quandary for all of us in this industry, is where do you draw the line? And really, for someone like you and I that have been in operations and that pride themselves on delivering that guest experience, when do you say, I don't really want to do that anymore, but I know it was really effective, and it was very guest facing, and it was worthy of mention because the guests really appreciate it. So that's going to be the balance that we have to find.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of testing it. It's going to take nobody. This is the interesting thing about the hotel industry. Those that don't know, like nobody's really clamoring to be tip of the spear when it comes to innovation. But it's going to take a few people to sort of test the waters, and then once the big guys, agree what the direction is, usually everybody else follows suit.
Sure, and we can talk about technology, which is I've been in discussions about. Are you going to go overboard with technology, and you're going to lose that interpersonal relationship between the staff and the guest, and what part of that then falls down on the experience level and doesn't really, you can't tell the story if you're just doing it with technology.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point, and you can engage people so much, only so far. I think in a text-based or email-based world, and you've got really a few different classes of hotels, and you've talked about this already. You've got your properties are very experiential, and part of the experience is being able to go to the hotel, to be within the environment of what it is that you're trying to program. it's different when you go to like, sort of your run of the mill franchised brand at the airport of whatever city, where it's just a room. It's I could almost see at some point there being a blurred line, but definitely a division between experiential type hotels like you run,
Sure,
and just sort of your run of the mill room is a room, beige hotel place.
right. And I think that's the difference between a boutique hotel, and that's what everybody will tell you is, in a boutique hotel, you really look to activate the space and try to bring some kind of movement and action and as we like to say, storytelling, and then how does that affect that guest positively, and maybe that's why they're coming here, because they didn't want to go to that beige, they wanted it to be purple, or something like that, and that's what I think predicated for a boutique hotelier is what we're trying to do. We're trying to find those things that get the community involved and also can really drive interest, and hopefully that's indicative of some of the travel that we're seeing.
Yeah. That I love that you said getting the community involved at the very beginning of the pandemic and through the first stages of it. I was talking a lot about hotels don't typically do a very good job of engaging the 5 or 10 blocks around them. That back then, we needed them. We needed the locals to come in, right? Not all restaurants were closed yet, and there was still
Right.
takeout going on, and some hotels were still open. We needed the locals to come and support the hotels, but there hadn't been, in a lot of cases, that relationship building over many, many years of becoming sort of that community gathering place. Some hotels, sure, but like the vast majority, no. And now that things are starting to go back to the way they used to be, we're sort of maybe turning that eye away from engaging the community again because the hotels don't need them. Because, like we've talked about earlier already, records are being set. And I think it's an interesting thought just to, how do we move forward while maintaining or maybe developing new relationships with the community, and not just being very fickle about it and only going after them when we need them.
Well, and I think too, when you get the community involved, you can get your staff involved, and it may not even be in a fully work scenario. You can do things outside of the hotel that are community based, but with your staff, that enhance their involvement, not only with the community or the things that are going on, but it enhances hopefully their life with our family, within our family, right? And so all of that works hand in hand to try to create that culture, as everybody likes to talk about. How do you build the culture? And is it solid, or is it just a bunch of double talk? And you gotta back it up because people see the difference.
They do. They totally. Yeah. It's not a once a year beach cleanup.
Right. Right. And we did that, and but there's other things that have to happen, and that we try to do, and that helps our community. I can pick on one of our hotels is an art community, and the activation of art and art walks and different things like that, which fully haven't happened. It's great when they can come into the hotel and see our resident artist in the hotel, because they have it, and even our resident artist, who is a little bit advanced in years, really had to stay away for COVID, and now that he gets back to interacting. I mean, that was the thing he missed the most, was he couldn't interact with just people coming by, and so that's a real positive.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Have you guys started to get away from the COVID messaging and some of this? I don't want to say getting away from the safety protocols, but the stickers, 6 feet away stickers on the ground, and maybe the Purell stations at every 10 feet. Have you started to remove traces of what's been going on and try to get back to normal?
We have. I think we were a little bit on the fence when the CDC came out, but we knew that things were changing and people were tired. So we made a conscious effort to say, let's go back to doing things the way we used to, the way we were known for, the way we built the culture, and give them the experience that they're hoping for. While we've all learned how to be cleaner, more streamlined, and it took a little bit even longer in the restaurants where we did rolled silverware for a little bit while longer, and then as we saw the comfort level growing, we went back to having a glass set on the table and silverware and things like that. So I wouldn't say it's 100%, but we're a lot closer to where that 100% was back in 19 and early 20.
Yeah. Are you back to buffets?
We have done a few, not much. We really, a lot of our weddings, when we booked them, we talked to people about plated meals, and but we are starting to get that request. And I will tell you, I went to a conference in Atlanta, the Hunter, and it was 1,200 people, and it was buffet, but very well done, and certain things were prepackaged and certain things were doled out with screening and things like that, and it was pleasant and it felt normal, which was great to be normal. So we have all intents to at our Chattanooga, the Reed House, we are going to do a traditional Thanksgiving hotel buffet and use the ballroom and go for that. And that'll be our first, because we've always, the major Mother's Day, Easter, Thanksgiving, and then we are bringing back our Christmas. We do a big breakfast with Santa a couple of days, and a lot of different activations that we haven't been able to do that we will definitely do this year.
Yeah. That's that's incredible. Do guests and employees care about the removal of some of these COVID reminders?
I think, as it came into April and things started to get back to somewhat of normal, everybody was tentative. I would say going into July, we still have, we absolutely encourage, if a guest feels comfortable to wear a mask, please do. If a staff member feels comfortable about wearing a mask, and I will tell you, we have a bellman that just, he has some concern, so he wears a mask, and it's fine. But predominantly, I think people are in the place where they want to get back to life as it was. And
they're appreciative of the.
Yeah, and I've talked to a lot of folks, and they appreciate what we did and all the efforts everybody went through as they were going through it. And I think industry-wide, we built a confidence level that we could, handle the cleanliness and do what was needed, and talk to people and contact trace, and we have new terminology and all that good stuff. But I think we're back pretty much as normal, and I think people appreciate that it's back to normal.
Yeah, that's my sense too. If you had to Monday morning quarterback the last year and a half a little bit, looking back, going into it and having been through the storm, is there anything that you as a senior VP of operations or the organization has learned through this process that you're going to maybe take and change the way that you've done things in the past going forward?
I think operationally, of course, we've discussed some of those things. So there's still things out there that will continue to contemplate what those services are, how they look. I mean, we used to have, there was different things that we provided for the guests that, whether it was a little small amenity that was a localized food product, here in Charleston that was just a nice treat that disappeared. And whether we bring that back, is that something that really cements our experience, or was it just something we thought we had to do to get that guest through the door? And now we're not, we haven't made that determination 110%. Same thing with breakfast. A lot of marketing schemes include breakfast or whatever, and breakfast has changed tremendously. So those kind of things. And then as we dealt so much with the relationships, and those are the things that you look back on and say, what could I have done better to handle how we had to furlough people? Did we do the best job we could? I think, if you talk to our director of people and culture, she would tell you that we did a pretty good job, and we continue to do a pretty good job. But there were a few folks that probably fell through the cracks, and because you count on them as family, you don't want to lose anybody, and so you go back to that and you say, we could have done this a little bit differently. I thought we were, us as a company, we were pretty proactive. We came out right away. We knew what we were going to do. We got open quickly so we could bring people back and put them back to work. So that was a positive. And it was tough just to get that confidence that we could control. And that was a lot of it, is how did we as a management group really effectively battle the COVID situation with tracing and all those things. That's probably what we look at the most and say, did we do a good job on that side, so that we didn't alienate a team member or potential guest as well. So we continue to look back and evaluate, but we're moving forward, and it's busy, and so now everybody's trying to take care of the family members, the team members, and the guests all over again.
Yeah, right back into the fire.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of critically analyzing actions of the past, and the great leaders will be the ones that critically analyze themselves and how they've done things, but how organizations handled the last year and a half is most certainly going to be critically analyzed by the team members that are still there and are no longer there. And I guess all we can hope for is that there's a good dialogue coming out of this, so that everybody feels heard, and that we can really truly take some valuable lessons as we move forward. Right.
And I think we did a lot of peer review, and we did employee surveys, and we've taken a lot of that to heart. And there's always going to be a few things that you have to take to heart and really look at them. But I think even with some of our employee surveys, they were appreciative of some of the things that we did. You don't always hit a home run. You got to hit a few singles here and there. So
it's true. It's so true. Okay. Same question, but maybe for you on, is there anything that was validated for you or revalidated in how you approach your position in your experience through COVID?
I just, it was such a tough thing. I would say what validated for me is the people that we have, that we count on in this organization, right down to managers running front desks and having to do things that they hadn't done before, and parking a car, taking trash out, and doing all the different things. Where when the rubber hits the road, you realize who you can count on. And I think that was the most validating for me because I wasn't very disappointed, and it was great to be side by side with all those folks and trying to tell them I still got it, even though I haven't been doing it as frequently as I used to.
I've been there. Yeah, definitely been there where you jump in and you think you know how a department runs because it's under your care. And then you realize, oh man, no, I really don't know what's going on around here.
Yeah.
We gotta get our new onboarding, training up and running again,
Right.
or whatever it is. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I realized that I was not as adept with the property management system as I thought I was.
Yep. In there for sure. That muscle memory, those
Yeah.
keys, and that leaves you pretty quick. Ken, this was a great insight on the show. Thanks for coming on and letting us know what's happening.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you very much.
You bet. If anybody wants to get a hold of you or learn more about Avocet Hospitality, where should they go?
Please check our website, Avocet Hospitality Group. We are there, and I am on there, and you can reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn, so which is probably in technology I'm not as adept with either, but please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from anybody.
Sounds good. I'll link to both in the show notes if anybody wants to find it. Just scroll down and they'll see
Great.
it. Well, look, best of luck as we move forward, and hopefully 22 is going to be another record year for you guys.
Well, let's hope so. We would love to see that. Keep it consistent. That would be great after the last year.
Yeah, there's no doubt. All right. Okay. All the best. Thank you.
Thanks very much.